The next molecule here is cellulose, and it's the same exact structures as starch. There's single sugars here, the monosaccharides that have been combined to make a polysaccharide. But instead of being uniform like this one, you have an alternating pattern where we can make it a little bit more rigid, perhaps. This will get mushy. Think of like mashed potatoes. We can break that down. But here you've got a little bit more fiber that's going to be in place when these lock together with other items. Then you see glycogen. Let's talk about glycogen. So glycogen, the form in which excess glucose is stored in the human body, and other animals. I keep talking about human body because of the horse, but this is what's especially abundant in the muscles and in the liver. So it has kind of a more like sporadic look, and it has these angles where molecules are combined, as opposed to the straight lines here in starch and the opposing rigid lines here. Remember that all living cells contain carbohydrates, and on the worldwide basis, carbohydrates represent the most widespread source of food energy. So in plants, carbohydrate is stored as starch, and in animals, it's in the form of glycogen. Here's a really interesting fact, and I think it's a fact that you should know. 100 grams of carbohydrate yield about 1,760 kilojoules. And if you don't know what a kilojoule is, a joule is a unit of energy, and in nutrition, it's a capital J. It's the energy obtained from food that is available through cellular respiration. And so if it's a kilojoule, it's 1,000 joules. So if we have 1,760 kilojoules, take the 1,760 and multiply it by 1,000. All right, here we have an image of a bunch of world flags. And I think this is where the global piece of our class comes into play, because we normally think about what happens in the United States and in the westernized countries like Great Britain and Canada. But what happens in the rest of the world, and why does it happen? Major food sources vary in different parts of the world, and that, going back to what we learned in the overview, it depends on availability and cultural preference. So carbohydrates are used in so many different ways, and I want you to think about China, for example. What would China do for their carbohydrate? Think about their diet. What's their staple item for carbohydrates? Hopefully you guessed rice. That is correct, rice. I mean, that's what gives them their carbohydrate for their whole country. Let's go to Ireland. What do you think Ireland is known for? A good old potato. They have the best potatoes. If you've never had Irish potatoes, like a russet, I mean, you gotta enjoy that. Yeah, potatoes. Let's go to South America and in Mexico, Central America, South America. Their staple carbohydrate would be, did you guess it? Maize or corn. We could go to Nigeria, African continent. Nigeria, what do you think their staple carbohydrate is? It's a root known as cassava. Cassava, they will boil that or grind that down into a cassava powder. It's a really, really great tasting root. Italy, this should be pretty easy. What do you think Italy is known for the carbohydrates? You're going to say pasta, but instead of pasta, let's specifically talk about the actual product. Pasta is a very general item, so we really want to talk about wheat. They do a lot of breads, and they also do a lot of pasta. but that comes from wheat and flour. Let's go to a random place. How about Oceania? Oceania. Um, this would be the sweet potato. And if you don't know where Oceania is or Oceania, go look it up on a map. So it's a really neat little place. Okay. All right, so our next screencast is really going to focus on lipids, and I'm looking forward to teaching you about how fat or dietary fat is found in a variety of animal and plant sources. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you learned something. Catch you in a few days.